time to get straight down to it. Obey up against Team Rival, formerly known as Cyclone GG.
Yes.
Now with a new sponsor for you guys at home who don't recognize the name.
But it's the same 5 players, no differences as far as the actual roster goes. So you know this team definitely has some strong potential, Hindu, because they've taken games off of energy in the past. Everyone in Europe always talks about how strong this team is and that they're surprised where they are in the standings. So this is a really good opportunity for them to get some momentum going into LAN.
Well, Ban's not too unusual. Fafnir, Honbats as well. Honbats is one of the bigger ones that we'll talk about there, as well as Toth is obvious as well. We see that a lot in the competitive scene. Well, Honbats, obviously a lot of people talking about him just lately. They're very strong at all points of the game.
Yeah, just as soon as he hits level 5, he's good to go. And a lot of that is due to his itemization being very, very strong right now. I think he will see a little bit of a drop down whenever Hydra's Star gets a little bit of a nerf, a little bit of a cost increase there, but still probably going to be a quintessential jungler.
And Medusa as well. I mean, the thing about Medusa, she's kind of got on the radar a little bit. People have started to realize she's in play now, but she's over 100 kills. The highest in the Hunter role of kill potential right now is Medusa.
She does it all. She has the late game carry potential. She has excellent early lane clear, and her ultimate is absolutely game-changing. We've seen it time and time again throughout this spring split.
You say that, but there's Zeus locked in as well, and Zeus does the same sort of thing.
Yeah,
Terra will actually bring the same sort of thing you'll see out of a Sylvanas with a Zeus as well. Those roots allowing Zeus to get that confirmed damage off potentially as well.
An excellent peel as well, able to make sure that Zeus feels somewhat comfortable. The heals, making sure that when you get poked out, you're not as vulnerable in the next engagement.
Surprised Cabrakan did get free from Obey Alliance there, or at least they didn't look to draft it first. They chose that Terra over the Cabrakan, and Cabrakan's been one that we've talked about a little bit just lately. It's because of his lane dominance early on.
Especially then their decision to draft the Osiris right afterwards, because most of the time we've seen Terra, it has been in the solo lane, but with Obey it really has been to Emilzy, so I think they thought, we're not going to fool anyone. Everyone knows it's going to Emilzy. Let's make sure Maniac is on something he's comfortable with.
And talk about Obey again, they will go for a triple tank composition sometimes, but right now the Anher locked in the final pick. This could be a tankier option again for them if they so choose.
But it's not going to be, it's going to be the exact opposite. Chang'e jungle. Yeah, for sure. This is Captain Twig. He's always willing to try something new, and like you heard Totally say on the desk, Obey only need one victory here to secure themselves top spot at LAN. They're already secured because they are the 2 teams underneath them play each other this week, so they are going to LAN, so they're not too worried about this. They can afford to experiment a little bit.
They can experiment a little bit and actually just put things into people's minds ready for LAN as well, I guess, is the other one. When you start to think about, hang on, what are they going to run at LAN? Oh wait, they put out a Chang'e the final week. Are they going to try and do that against us at LAN?
What's Twig going to play? Is he going to play Hebo or Chang'e or like a normal assassin, like or Cabrakan, or who knows? Obey definitely one of the more flexible teams in terms of what their roster can pull out.
Well, let's see how this plays out. Obey will be on the order side of things, and Chaos side will be Team Rival. Starting off, looking down the builds, nothing too unusual to really mention.
No, you see Wolfie going for the tiny trinket right off the bat. A little bit of a, we haven't seen as much of this item in the mid lane as of late, but it's still one of the best in terms of how much damage you have at level 1, and with how poor Scylla's clear is early on, this combined with the Soul Stone is going to allow Wolfie to clear the wave a little bit earlier.
And duo lane, it looks like we may see both supports start on the duo lane side of things. We do see a couple of switch-ups with supports these days where they can start mid or they can start in the duo lane. It's more dependent about if you think you've got lane dominance as well as how mid lane's looking as well, Aggro.
You have a lot of options, absolutely. We've seen Emilzy really start all over the map, but I like this decision to stick him with Ataraxia this time around. You know that Rival's going to have excellent clear with the Medusa and Amaterasu in support, so you're going to have to help Ataraxia out and match that, and Emilzy on this Terra is going to be able to do just that.
Emilzy took a lot of free poke there early on, but Callus absorbs some back as well. Callus, at the same time, will have some sustain in his kit, just continuing to change stance the whole time. Will give them the mobility as well as the sustain.
So even with Emilzy here, Obey gets out cleared on the left-hand side. I doubt Rival's going to look to do the actual buffs. Yeah, they're just going to snag away these little minions on the sides of the buffs to make sure they hit level 2.
Now, we didn't check on the right-hand side of the map what was going on there, but the speed buff was stolen by Captain Twig there from Team Rival's jungle. Rival is still level 2 though as well, and both camps available for Obey to go and take on their side. So it's a very small lead at the moment, at least for Captain Twig and the team of Obey.
But it's only going to grow as Captain Twig is able to secure this blue buff for Maniac and now probably his own speed, though with the pressure exerted by Rival on this right-hand side, Twig is going to be able to get to that lane to make sure he can get those minions.
Just clear those minion baby camps around the speed just to add a little bit more experience, and now out, Prime turns up. It also allows Prime to use that chain lightning if he needed to actually ricochet a little bit better onto multiple people.
Not only potentially securing that speed buff, but doing significant damage to Ice Baby and Deathwalker as well. I liked the quick decision, though, from Rival to say, okay, Prime's here, Wolfie's not going to be able to make it, let's just back up and give it to him.
Now, Deathwalker on the Kraken today for Team Rival. His season's been very interesting to me because he was one on the team that you could look at and be like, how has he been doing? Because we saw him at LAN the end of last year where he was playing the Chuck, and it was like some questionable decisions from him in terms of build options and what he wanted to do. But as this season's gone on, he's actually taken on some of the best in Europe and had a pretty good time, I think.
He absolutely has. All of Rival just seemed to be maturing very, very nicely. Captain Twig and Pretty Prime are going to have a difficult time walking into lane this direction, though Prime going to return a lot of damage onto Wolfie here. The detonate going to bring him down pretty low.
Yeah, a lot of what happened there really was Captain Twig setting up the minions to be primed for Pretty Prime to clean them up if they could, and that actually allowed them just to resustain a little bit more.
So back to Deathwalker, I mean, he's still doing his interesting builds. We saw him play the Bologna with, Executioner and a lot of attack speed in a matchup where it ended up working out. They ended up taking that victory over Energy. So, you never really know what you're going to get out of him in terms of builds, but he absolutely has had a little bit more success here in Season 4 than he and the rest of his team had in Season 3.
Well, Ice Baby then just did get out the Prime's beads there in the mid lane as well, so they're going to be on cooldown for a little while longer now, just under 150 seconds, which means there's going to be a bit of a power play for Rival when they do hit level 5 here. The Thor dunk into a Scylla ultimate could spell death for Pretty Prime. Oh, they need to recognize that.
Absolutely, and Zeus, I mean, we talk about his burst damage all the time, but it's not like you're landing into a Kraken. If he ults himself, you can still land on him, chain stun him. The real bulk of the damage, especially early on, is coming from Detonate. So if you kill him before Detonate goes off, even if you're standing in the Lightning Storm, it's really not that big of a deal.
Yeah, we'll see how that produces things going forward now. In the base, though, Wolfie has got his red buff gone to get Boots 2 online, a couple of wards as well from him. Thor now is level 5 as well, so just keep an eye on where the rotation from the mid and jungle go, and whether or not we see Carlos join up with them, which it looks is the case.
And you can see that both the mid laner and the jungler for Team Rival have gone for the Aegis, not electing for the Purification Beads. And I can understand why they would do this, because there isn't a whole lot of hard CC in terms of stuns to make sure that you can't move. The root, you can still Aegis during the root from Emilzy. You can still Aegis whenever Maniac is on top of you, but it's going to be up to Captain Twig to really set up for Prime to make sure that these enemies are stunned out before that detonate comes through, so that Rival can't use their relics to immune the damage.
Yeah, that hard CC is a real talking point here, though. They do lack a little bit of that, and the CC that they do have, that is required to land every single time. Not just the Waxing Moon impales from Anher, as well as Terror with the walls and the roots. They have to keep connected, otherwise they've not got that much peel overall when you think about it.
No, and most of the CCs that Obey do have are close range. I mean, Captain Twig, Moonlit, the ultimate isn't that far. Yep. It can't hit multiple targets, but Emilzy needs to be fairly close, especially if he's going to commit for the root like we saw him do there. He's going to need to be very, very close in order to find that. Maniac going to be up on top of you in order to get the stun, and Ataraxia as well has that conditional stun on the impale. So what hard CC Obey do have isn't exactly reliable or long range.
Well, no invade this time from either team in terms of buffs, because both speed buffs have gone to the correct junglers overall right now. And then on the right hand side you can see that the elemental's now going to go down as well. Both the solo lanes have their blue. So Obey have kind of weathered the storm. Not weathered the storm, but it was more Team Rival weathered the storm from what Obey did earlier on, and they couldn't answer it back.
A very slow-paced game right now. Just both teams looking to get towards that middle stages of the game, and I like that option for both teams, because on the side of Rival, you've got a Scylla. You don't want to be fighting early with Scylla in your mid lane, and for Obey, you've got Chang'e in the jungle, and you don't want to be fighting early with Chang'e in the jungle. So both teams are definitely willing to wait until the 17, 18-minute mark and try and make their engagements there.
Well, Obey won the fight at the elementals there. They did manage to get both of those. The oracles will go the way, which means the ward goes down for Obey. Prime will make sure Rival's exit back towards mid lane is hindered a little bit there as he continued to farm up. Typical EU start to the game this, though, for the most part, more positioning and dominance. But here's Ice Baby looking for a gank.
There's the dunk onto Emilzy, the wall as well, but no I'm a monster coming out from Wolfie quite yet. Pretty Prime is being focused on by Kalas, but Twig does a great job of
2, and then the Zeus ult drops as well. Captain Twig picks up Kalas, and then Ice Baby, he'll escape for now, or will he?
But Maniac's going over the wall, looking to chase him. Level 8 Osiris. The wall isn't going to do a whole lot because Maniac, he's in that passive form, walks right through the stun and picks up Ice Ice Baby.
Now the question is, was that the Waxing Moon that was the big play from Captain Twig, or was it Prime reacting to the Waxing Moon in time to drop the Zeus ult on top to confirm this?
Why does it only have to be one? It's a nice combination between the long-time mid-jungle. No, it's good communication. That's what deserves a shout-out there. It's Twig saying, I'm looking for the ult, and Prime ready to go with that Lightning Storm. Really, really clean play between the long-time teammates there.
Good rotation out of Maniac there as well from the solo lane. It's very important for your solo lane to, when they realize these engagements are in mid, if they have a small opportunity to get over there, it's one thing that you don't really factor in from a solo lane because they're not necessarily expected to be there.
Right, and especially when you've got a Warrior versus Guardian matchup, you're supposed to be out clearing the Guardian as the Warrior, exactly what Maniac has been doing, and then you have to use that advantage somehow. Yeah, it's great that the Guardian's going to be losing a little bit of gold under that tower, but how can you impact the entire team fight with that lane pressure? Maniac gets there first and is able to clean up there for Obey.
Well, that nice little 2-0 pickup for Obey. It does give him a bit more of a boon of a lead. They got the speed earlier on, and they got the elemental, the oracles, I should say, over by the Gold Fury. Now add that to the 2 kills they just picked up in that last fight with the first blood gold bonus as well. Things are looking okay for Obey, which has kind of been the story of their season.
Absolutely, and especially with a team that likes to fight in the mid game as much as Obey does. Obey is willing to even not just stay even, but fall behind a little bit in the early stages of the game. If they're behind 2, 3, 4,000 gold by the 18-20 minute mark, they don't seem to be that concerned. That's where they want to start fighting, is around that 18 to 20 minute mark. And if they've got a lead going into that, it's very, very scary for the opposition because Obey is so excellent at controlling those mid-game Gold Furies, the mid-game invades. As soon as Obey start to group up, that's where they really start to shine.
I will say that the Rivals composition does breed to me mid to late game anyway with what they've drafted here. When they get there as a unit, we'll see how they do, because if Obey don't get enough of a lead in the mid game or close the game out in the mid game, then Rival will come back into it.
Oh yeah, the late game potential is excellent here for Rival. I mean, what Obey has in the late game is really Captain Twig on the Chunga. That's their best late game carry right now. Rival's got that Scylla, and we always talk about it with Scylla. It's not even only about the ultimates. All it takes is one 3-man Sikkim Crush combination to absolutely change the course of a game.
2,500 experience, 1,300 gold lead now for Obey based off that last little skirmish we saw before the pause came out. And now just keep an eye on the item builds coming through. Full boots now online for Wolfie in the mid lane on Scylla. Zeus a little bit further behind, but I think that's just down to him not going back to base just yet.
Yeah, a couple awkwardly timed backs for Pretty Prime. After he got his beats forced out in the mid lane, he had to back and buy boots 1, which is usually something you don't want to do. In the mid lane, most mid laners like to stick around until they get at least boots 2.
Well, a little bit of a trade-off in the solo lane right now with Ice Ice Baby and Captain Twig both turning up about the same time. This is also the same time the speed and the blue buffs have been around, and that's why you can see more focus to this lane being paid.
Of course, I mean, junglers can't go without their speed buff. God forbid. That's the #1 priority. Did we win?
It's funny because I was talking to Anatoly, right? And I was talking about solo lane to him, and he was like, if you're a solo laner, you'd rather get the blue. You'd rather steal their blue than their speed. So it's all role specific, right?
It really is. Like, as a mid laner, if I get my red buff stolen by the enemy, or even my hunter, if my hunter's behind and takes my red buff, I'm instantly F6ing the game. I'm out.
Really?
Yeah, get me out. I'm done.
But why? Because like if your hunter's behind, then doesn't giving him a bit more of a damage boost help him?
No, he's feeding, and he shouldn't take my red.
That's just you being greedy and not sharing.
You're right.
You need to be brought better if you don't share properly. Like this jungle is everybody's, not just the junglers, not just the solo laners. Contested camps at the Oracles there will go the way of Rival. And a little bit late there was Captain Twig for the pickup to try and secure. He could have looked for Waxing Moon, but a little bit too much of an investment, especially when the Gold Fury is available.
Yeah, and with how little mana he has, it probably wasn't in his best interest to do so. On the right-hand side, Deathwalker's gone for the Sands of Time, the starter item right after completing his boots, really valuing that CDR and extra power, as well as the fact that Cabrakan is a pretty mana-hungry character, and if he's rotating around, trying to be in these team fights, maybe not have a chance to do or pick up his blue buff, that Sands of Time passive could really help him out, making sure he can get as much Tremors off and as much CC off as possible.
And not just the mana regen, you mentioned the cooldown a little bit. Hang on a second, Prime in mid lane, Forcible in place here. I'm a monster pop by Wolfie as well. Maniac, what are you doing? I don't care about you. Prime was in trouble, but Prime will get away for now. Captain Twig on zone duty did use the Waxing Moon there in that team fight as well, but a Millsy on the front line will help to disengage Obey. Rival invested a lot there, forced to meditate as well, so they do look healthier.
Yeah, Pretty Prime thought that Ice Ice Baby Baby was going to teleport into his hammer after an excellent wall cut off his escape path, but love the patience out of Ice Baby to know that Pretty Prime, his best option was to just drop the ult on himself. Great use of baiting out those ultimates, but then Rival just doesn't find the target to commit to after they get that initial engagement.
They were looking at Callus for a second. Nice little route from a Millsy there, but unfortunately enough, the dash was available for Callus to just disengage immediately. Going back to Deathwalker as well, we talked about, you know, the mana regeneration you'll get from this. You did mention the cooldown a little bit, but the other thing of the cooldown is once he's got Breastplate of Valor online, which is very close to completion right now, another 1,300 gold total to go back to base with is all he's going to need to finish off this Breastplate of Valor. That's 30% CDR at less than 15 minutes in the game, guaranteed.
Quite a bit, and what does Cabrakan do better than just about any other character in the game is chain CC you, and so as long as he has that cooldown, he's going to be able to do that more and more often. He's not there to be the damage. Rival doesn't need the damage. Sometimes Cabrakans are kind of a damage option out of that solo lane or even in the Guardian role that they really need to build a little bit more offensively. That really isn't the case here for Deathwalker. He's there to set up for Wolfie on Scylla. That is his job in this game, and the more CCs he can pull off with that CDR, the better.
Now I do notice that we see a little bit more lifesteal coming into play. Now obviously the patch hit on Tuesday, and we can see that lifesteal seems to be the way we've seen a couple more people go to here in terms of the majors. Yeah,
Bancroft's talent always been very, very strong. A little bit of an extra power spike here for Wolfie. I like this pickup for him. Could also be a Book of the Dead. I mean, a little bit cheaper now, and it does a lot of great things for Scylla. Going to be able to heal up pretty nicely off of Crush, off of Full Wave, getting an extra 200 HP shield. You also get 200 HP just by buying the item, and then of course the good power on top of it could make Wolfie a little bit harder to all in.
And maybe he'll go Book of the Dead, but definitely Captain Twig has gone with the Bancroft's talent as well. Bit of extra sustain for him personally. The damage is good too.
Absolutely, especially with a brawler mage like Chang'e, who's going to be in the thick of things. Bancroft's talent, of course, giving you more power and lifesteal as you get lower and lower in HP. And Twig wants to be about half HP, pop that ultimate, and really surprise people with that amount of burst damage he's going to do.
Well, most of the engagements we've seen really at the moment have been around the Oracles. Both teams really looking to pressure those. Very important to get those, not just for the experience in gold, a free ward that guarantees you that if they're going to start the Gold Fury, you're going to know about it.
Especially with how much burst damage Rival has, they can easily sneak down a Gold Fury. Amaterasu support, excellent at doing objectives because of that passive and the damage aura that she can provide to her team. And Wolfie has excellent secure with that I'm a Monster.
Impale from Ataraxia there. Didn't really find where he was looking for. He wanted to get him into the pillar somewhere else he could set up, but instead pushed him away, which made it easier for Vote to really escape there.
This is kind of a grudge match between Ataraxia and Vote when you think about it. Last time these two played was at the group stages of last year's LAN, and Vote found the first solo kill ever on Ataraxia's career in professional play, and he was kind of salty about it, to be honest.
It might be a 2v1 kill here in a minute if Ataraxia doesn't realize it. Scratch that, he does just in time, but he is zoned away from the purple for a moment at the moment. But it looks like Rival will just default back to go into the dual lane and pushing that one in for now. But yeah, I guess maybe it is a bit of a grudge match.
A little bit.
So? You just trying to force this of like,
oh, 100%,
hey, yeah. Okay.
No, but I mean, you know how Ataraxia is. He's been around the scene for a long time, and of course all he cares about is winning, but if he could find a solo kill on the Vote, that would help him out a little bit.
A Welshman that got killed by a Scotsman. That's what you got to look at it from there as well. It's
you're right. I'm the one forcing it.
Listen, I can bring stories up better than you. That's the difference. It's like Welsh versus Scottish. There you go. There's a story for you. Mid lane, though, a lot of pressure down to Deathwalker, who's making a rotation. Maniac's got him very low. Twig will clean that one up as well. Ice Baby came in with the ultimate to try and disengage Death, but it's too little too late.
Two-man route there from Emilzy. Lightning Storm into those mid-harpies, but just not enough damage from Prime quite yet, but a great stun from Emilzy, locks Callus in place, and Maniac's able to clean him up.
Nice combo there from Obey to really apply a little bit more pressure there with the chain CC, keeping Callus locked down, because if he could have escaped with the dash, would have been a different story there with the investment they put in. Maniac, though, going to continue doing his zoning work. Classic Maniac solo lane this. His team does the objective, he goes straight to zone, but he doesn't zone like most solo laners do. He will just try and kill you.
And he's trying to kill two people right now around the backside between the two towers, but now he's blocked off. I'm a Monster, not going to hit, though, from Wolfie. So Maniac going to be able to escape A-okay.
Well, he's going to eat that crush for a second in mid lane. Cabrakan has turned up. Maniac wants to trade with Wolfie, but he doesn't realize there's a man behind him. Deathwalker comes in. Maniac bites off more than he can chew. The speed buff, though, still being looked at by Obey.
Deathwalker focused in on Pretty Prime. There's a lockdown from the Cabrakan, but Twig and Emilzy are on the way. Prime able to walk out of that damage. Still fairly healthy, right around half HP, but Twig is here with the heals. So the rest of Rival try to get here to help out Deathwalker.
Well, the speed buff does go the way of Obey there, but Deathwalker was still trying to fight onto to Pretty Prime. Look at Ice Ice Baby was low on mana there for a long period of time. It took Callus to turn up to try and help him out a little bit. But that was more Deathwalker trying to force a fight that his team, I don't think, really wanted to take.
The Sunder!
They weren't available.
The Sunder was huge out of Twig. He stuns Ice Ice Baby. The Sunder autos enough to burst him down. Speaking of burst, Twig eats quite a bit of it. There's a Lightning Storm on top of Callus, who dashes right into Ataraxia, right into the Fire Giant pit as well. Pretty Prime able to finish off Callus.
And Prime put so much work in from that position as well. If you remember, it was Deathwalker that aggressed on him originally, and now it's swung in favor of Obey. The Portal Demon as well as the Gold Fury going in their favor so far. The Portal Demon still being looked at, though.
But Vote has split push down that left-hand side. On the right, all of Obey still trying to commit on the Deathwalker, but just too much movement speed out of that Cabrakan to really catch up to him.
Yeah, very, very awkward position. With the sustain coming out from Twig, though, these guys can hang around a little bit longer. Not just Twig, but Terror as well. Wrath of Terror will give a heal if they take a couple of hits. And as well, the Monolith on the ground will also do the same sort of thing.
Wrath of Terror is actually really excellent here in this matchup because you look at the Bluestone damage out of Vote, the Deathwalker trembles. That's going to pop that heal pretty easily there whenever Emilzy pops that ultimate. So this draft really working out well for Obey.
Well, the scoreline now you can see it's about a 3 to 4K differential between the two teams, 6 to 1 at 15 minutes in. And this has mainly been rivaled by enough more than they can chew. The one death that we see on the side of Obey was Maniac, and that's because he bit off more than he could chew.
Yeah, it's just been a little bit... we see this time and time again from Rival, where their mechanics look good, their decision-making looks pretty good, and then just one thing goes a little bit too wrong.
That right there in the mid lane. The Hammer Monster did not hit from Wolfie again, and now Twig's got a chance to escape. Waxing mood to turn it around, and Ice Ice Baby gets detonated by Prime, and that was a 4v2.
That was hot. That's what Chunga wants to do every single time. And this is what Maniac wants to do, is dive your tier 1 tower. He doesn't care about anything. Wolfie forced to use that Aegis, is going to survive. But Maniac, again, just throwing that solo lane weight around.
And now we're on in the duo lane here. They could look to pressure the tier 1 tower mid, but instead they're looking at the Portal Demon on the right-hand side, which I think is a better call. Deathwalker, though, was there to defend. And Deathwalker's in a bit of trouble on that right-hand side. Maniac's still zoning 2 on his own here as Deathwalker falls down to Captain Twig.
And the Portal Demon's still not quite done, though, by Obey. Maniac still trying to zone those 2 members, and Vote didn't even feel like he wanted to hit that solo laner, despite how little physical protection he has.
And now Callus falls down as well.
Where did Callus just go?
Impaled into the one, just takes 3 auto attacks over and over again. This is Rival just not surrendering the fact that they should have just given up this night now. The Petrify came out from Vote there, so I got excited, but it wasn't enough to steal that one away. But continuing to fight over that aggro, sometimes it's better just to give it up and be like, yeah, we lost that engagement.
And we saw Rival do that like minute 1 on their speed buff invade on the right-hand side. They realize Prime's there, they realize Twig's there, so they give it up. So we know that Rival is capable of that decision-making. We just haven't seen it here in the mid-game. And again, going back to my earlier point, Rival looks so good at times, but the execution and just like the willingness to full commits always seems a little bit too hesitant from Rival. We've seen a couple times where the Amma Monsters have been late on Ice Ice Baby's ultimates. You just got to clean that stuff up if you want to take games off of the best teams in the world, and Obey is certainly in that category.
And we're looking towards the Hunters now, and just keep it on the builds. Obviously, the builds from Hunters is always interesting, as well as now the changes have started to come in with some of the mid lane items like Bancrofts. Keep it on the major builds too. But the Hunters, Fatalis, Executioner, and Iqval online for the Anhur here, all about penetration.
And attack speed, because Anhur does not have that attack speed steroid that is so valuable for Hunters. Captain Twig caught out a little bit on this right-hand side, locked in there by Deathwalker. The Aegis doesn't buy him enough time, and Twig does fall.
Yeah, the reinforcements from Obey were a little bit too late there. Twig was a little bit too far forward, and that spelled his demise, giving a second kill to Rival. The first one of the game that goes over to, sadly, though, it went to Callus, which I don't think would be the target they would love to have got that onto, especially with Twig being worth a bit more gold.
Maybe earlier on, Callus wants to get that kill because the Warrior support does a nice job of snowballing if they can get an early kill or an early lead, but by the 18-minute mark where you're down about 5k gold, you certainly want that kill going to either your Hunter or your mid laner.
It's funny because when you actually look at Amaterasu support, you'd think immediately a Milzy, but it's actually Rival that are running that into him. Callus is like second on that list, I'd say, but Milzy knows how to deal with it because he plays it. That's generally how you understand a god, is by knowing it yourself.
Yeah, Milzy definitely a trendsetter as far as supports go in Europe. Gold Fury started up here by Rival. Crush is laid down. Desert Fury comes through, but it's Rival get it.
And now can Deathwalker get out is the question. Baby goes to the sky as well, looking to try and disengage his team if he can, and that's why Obey are kind of fallen back for a moment now. They will all be fine and escape back to safety. That was a very good win for Rival.
And for all the talk about their execution being a little bit off, that was excellent execution out of Wolfie. That's his job to secure that Gold Fury, and he did a great job of it.
And now there's a bit of a power play for Obey in the mid lane, though, because they're all grouped together. They want to try and answer about that Gold Fury. Deathwalker will teleport to the mid tier 1 tower, though, to bring some frontline once again and trap Captain Twig in a spot, forcing him to dance away.
But Pretty Prime still has that ultimate. Petrify comes through, forces out that purification from Ataraxia. There's the dash back from Collis, but Maniac, he's going in.
And the Waxing Moon goes on as well. Prime's going to get a lot of damage off Detonate. Could be available. Ataraxia wants kills. He's going to disperse multiple people away. Ice Baby back to the safety of his tower. Still, the whole of Rival are alive here. Obey weren't very clean on who they wanted to choose as a target, but they still got the tier 1.
Sometimes when everyone's a target, it's just like everyone was so low there from Rival outside of Deathwalker that it's difficult to really force that communication in there and be like, okay, we are focusing down this person, because in your brain, I mean, everyone knows, you see someone who's low HP, and you're like, ooh, I can kill them, but you have to be listening to the communication. So close to finishing off multiple members there of Rival. Obey don't find any kills, but they do get that tier 1 tower, 500 gold in their favor.
And we talked about some of this sustain that Obey have in this composition with the Chungo, with the fact that Mills is on this team too. But you can see the amount of anti-heal that Rival have actually invested into. Multiple people now. You've got Pestilence, you've got Brawler's Beatstick, now you've got a Divine Ruin as well. They are very aware that this is a problem.
I like these builds coming out of Rival, very aware of what's happening in terms of the sustain.
Deathwalker pressured early on. Maniac has tethered a couple, forcing them to use disengage as quick as they can to avoid the stun. But this just allows Obey to continue to collapse. Ice in the sky looking for the Prime opportunity target. It won't be Prime, it'll actually be Twig. Spin to win online, but not a whole lot of damage. He's forced out as well. Obey looking relatively healthy here.
And again, that sustain is just going to be so key for Obey. The heals from Captain Twig, that from Emilzy as well. And Wolfie, again, just a little bit too far off there with that I'm a Monster.
And the Detonate damage coming out from Prime as well. That was just Chain Lightning bouncing onto 2 targets. And now they can pressure a tier 2 as well after pushing Wolfie and Ice Baby that low. They can't really contest with no meditations here. They're going to lose a tier 2 for free.
And that's just the poke potential out of Zeus. Pretty Prime, third on his damage, or third on his team and player damage. And that says a lot about how much damage Captain Twig has been pumping out on this Chang'e jungle. Not a lot of people believers in this mage in the jungle. DJ Pernica is certainly the one who really got it started, I would say, in terms of what he was playing in ranked. But Twig definitely picking up and looking at making it look very, very strong here.
I mean, I think Twig would prefer to play Hebo every game if he got a choice, but I don't think his team necessarily want him on Hebo every game because he loves playing that in the jungle as well. So he's not unusual to see him on some of the mages now and again. The one thing I do like about Obey, though, is how fast this season has come on for them. They lose variety in the solo lane. They replace Frezzy or Panda-like, as you know, in the support role, bringing in Millsy and Maniac. And these two just look like they've been here all the time.
Yeah, Maniac in particular. I mean, we expect a high-level play, at least I do, out of Emilzy. I think that he's one of the best supports in Europe. Excellent theory crafter, been around the scene for a long time. I really did expect Obey to improve in terms of the support role with the Emilzy pickup.
But then losing variety?
Yeah, but Maniac for me...
That was the thing for me, was like, they lost variety, and it's like, oh, that could be a big burden, especially when a lot of people were calling him was the world champion. Losing that sort of caliber of player, he was the best MVP at the world, sorry, I should say.
Yes.
He was like voted for that from a lot of people's opinion. But then he leaves, and Obey is still doing really well, if not better.
Maniac has looked unbelievable all season long. It looks like he hasn't lost a step after taking a couple splits off there in Season 3. Really, really impressive play out of him.
Well, the Portal Demon is the focus again from Obey. They're really interested in the Portal Demon Gold Fury every single time for now, trying to just continue to extend this lead if they can. It's only 6K gold differential right now. Maniac, once again, being an annoyance on the front side, making room for his team to push in. Waxing Moon from Twig continues to the CC chain. Bad news is, though, it doesn't last as long if you've got diminishing returns. Deathwalker, though, he's trying to defend the Portal Demon. Portal Demon resets, but Deathwalker loses his life.
And the ult again off the mark there between Ice Baby and Wolfie. Maniac still zoning so many members of Rival. The Lightning Storm comes down from Pretty Prime. Not enough damage to secure any kills, but it's just all in the name of creating that space around this Fire Giant.
And this is the difference between what you see sometimes in ranked games, where people will chase those kills down to the bitter end, all the way to the fountain, right? Trying to secure those kills, and instead, Obey's like, you know what? We won that team fight, even though we didn't get kills. We forced enough people back. We get a free Fire Giant. We get the Portal Demon. Yeah, maybe you'll get our tier 2, but we got yours earlier. Cancel that. Maniac's already there.
Maniac just looks like Neo from the Matrix. Like, he's just in front of 3 people, not taking any damage. And he's not, I mean, he's got a lot of protection online and a good amount of HP as well between the Pestilence and the Wing Blade, but he's not unkillable with this build, especially at level 18 when Vote is level 17. He's got the Executioner and the Fatalis, good amount of pen online for him. You see Wolfie's got a lot of penetration. Maniac just feels unkillable right now because of how much he's dodging in terms of abilities and auto attacks.
And not just dodging, but at the same time, when you invest into an Osiris, it doesn't feel like you're doing anything, even though you are, you know? You expect not to do any damage to an Osiris, so you try to ignore him and hope you can kill the rest of the team, then focus your attention towards him instead. Gold Fury, the way of Obey.
And he's top of the player damage charts. So that tells you that he's certainly doing something, and Rival's got to recognize that. He's just been so far forward. I'm very surprised we haven't seen Rival try and full commit, and they did towards the end of that engagement, where they tried to wombo combo him with the Anvil of Dawn and the I'm a Monster, but neither ult hit, so he survived.
Just look at the level difference between the 2 junglers right now, and some of this is down to the fact that what a lot of people talk about this season is that staying on the map is very important. Stay on the map as long as you can to generate as much gold and experience as you can. And one thing that little bunny does that Chang'e has there is allow Captain Twig to do that, and that just pushes the lead even more.
I wonder how many times Twig has backed this game.
I'd say twice.
Twice?
Twice.
I'm going to go back and watch and see if you're right.
He's going to have to have got his relic once, right? And then he'll probably have to go back to base another time for mana.
Maybe. There's the lockdown in from Deathwalker. The Impale, though, just pushes him back. A huge Waxing Moon comes through from Twig. Right on top of that Lightning Storm. Desert's Fury is enough to finish off Collis.
And the worst thing is Maniac is forcing Wolfie so far back on the Scylla. She pops I'm a Monster defensively, but Maniac's going to be able to pick that one up for sure. He's being fought against 3, though. I'm lying. He's not going to pick it up for sure. That's Araxia. They get a double kill at the end of that engagement, and the tier 2 tower as well. So Maniac for 2 and a tier 2.
Finally, they punished Maniac for being very, very far forward, but I don't know if it's in time. Hindu, this left tier 2 already down. Phoenix being focused down, and Ataraxia is chunking it.
And Phoenix is still going to live for now. Deathwalker on the front line, so but he's going to be focused any second now, and there's the damage coming through from Ataraxia, as well as Prime to relieve the pressure of some of the front line. Phoenix finally falls.
Ice Baby is up in 10. Collis just now respawning, but Obey not dissuaded from doing this middle Phoenix. They don't have minions this time, though, so it's going to take them a little bit longer, but it looks like Rival has no recourse whatsoever. Middle Phoenix falls as well.
With a Fire Giant, as well as the little extra experience and gold lead that they've got. Well, little extra experience.
Just a tad.
Just a touch, you know? Yeah. It's not much. It's only 16k, you know? Could be 20.
It could be a million.
No.
In comparison to a million,
it's not possible.
It's not that much.
That's true, but in the game of Smite, you can't get a million experience advantage.
No, you can't.
No.
You could get a million gold advantage.
Technically, you could, yes. Yes, that'd be a long game, though.
It would be.
It would be a long game, and the respawns would probably be like 5 minutes.
But I'd have a million gold lead.
You would. And you wouldn't know what to do with it because you're in base dead still or something like that. Or
think of how many flickering rituals I could buy.
1.
At a time.
Yeah.
But I could just...
1.
Imagine I'm Chang'e, right? I send my bunny back to base. I blink, send my bunny back to base.
How fast do you think the bunny goes?
Well, if I'm blinking back towards my base,
like having a million gold lead does not make the bunny go faster, aggro. It's fast.
Have you tried? Maybe that's the problem. Maybe we just aren't paying the bunny enough. If we offer the bunny lots of gold, maybe he just instantly gets it for you.
I will say one thing that needs to happen with that bunny is we need bunny cam.
Bunny cam?
I think there should be an extra
like
person.
A little bottom right?
Like, no, we can actually select the bunny and follow his movements too. Just to see how quickly in the route he takes and talk about his positioning.
A little like sports-esque like cutout on the bottom right, just like watching the bunny just like run while the rest of the action is going.
Tier 2 on the right-hand side does fall. There's only 1 Phoenix left standing now for Rival to really try and do anything with it. 28 minutes in. Fire Giant and Portal Demon are up soon, but not soon enough for really Obey to do anything. If anything, they're kind of hoping that Rival come out of their base so they can fight, because they've not got much they can do right now.
Not at all, and the Frenzy pickup here by Vote, I like the idea. We see this a lot from teams who are very, very far behind. You make one last-ditch effort to try and take the team fight, but I don't know if I would have had Vote by that. You really want to have someone like Kalas, who is going to be behind regardless. Kalas is going to die pretty much no matter what because of how far behind he is.
You're all scumbags. You're like, make the support do all the work. They have to buy all the wards. They've got to buy all the rituals as well. Gosh,
I mean,
it's a hard life.
But think of it this way. If Rival do win a team fight, Vote's the one who needs to get the items online afterwards to try and get Rival back into this game.
True.
And that 750 gold deficit is going to make that harder for him to do.
Well, this Fire Giant has spawned and immediately Obey pay attention onto it. Twig on zone duty right now because Maniac's still in the mid lane. Ice goes to the sky. Twig recognizes that, calls Obey off, continuing on the Fire Giant. Meanwhile, Maniac has finally found the Scylla.
There's the Frenzy and the lockdown in from Deathwalker, but no one's dying from Obey. The sustain is just too good. In fact, Vote and Wolfie are both on the run.
But meanwhile, you can dance if you want to, and Captain Twig has left his friends behind because the rest of the enemy team, they don't dance, and now they're running away.
They have to. They've already lost 3 members. Only Ice Baby and Kalas remain. Neither have their ultimates available either. Obey charging down the mid lane. Looks like they're going to secure their first seed coming into the land.
Relatively clean game as well from Obey. When you look back at the whole tale of that first game, 2 kills at the start, went their way after Rival got a little bit aggressive. It was Rival that I felt were the ones that were more proactive in terms of looking for the aggression, but Obey handled it better and actually turned it around most